and welcome to the Blackbird Speaks. Today my guest is David Powell. He's a friend from my hometown Derby. He's an artistic DJ of 40 years. He was a social worker and youth justice worker. He also was a manager at CAMS. He led a mentoring program, which actually I was a part of back in the day. And he is a CBT mental health therapist. And at present, he leads the Time to Talk CIC registered men's mental health group program, which has been running for 2 years, but he's been leading on that for the last year. So welcome, Dave.
Welcome, Tracy. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Thanks for making the time to be here. So I guess we talked, the latest project that you're on and the program and group that you're running is around men's mental health. And I just think it's amazing to have you here to talk about that, because it's something that has become quite prevalent currently. But obviously, it's something that's existed forever.
Yeah.
And so it's such a positive thing that there's now this space for men to be able to speak and share how they're truly feeling. So I just wanted to ask you how you got involved in that.
Yeah, so my background obviously has been in working with children, young people and families for a long time now, over 30 years, over 35 years. And I've ended up in this position quite, I always say organically, where it's not, and that's been my whole pathway, it's been quite unorganic. But that's my background. My most recent work has been in mental health. Whilst I've been in there, a couple of things is noticeable is the lack of engagement from young men from different diverse backgrounds, and also just young men in general. Just through my life, just knowing different kinds of people, I have these conversations and I talk with a lot of people that wouldn't be the people that normally engage with services. That's in my normal.
Yeah.
So it was just an organic thing, because the group was running. It was on the back of a unfortunate death of a young man from Derby. The group started off from the community and these women were leading it, but it got to a point when it was a men's group and it needed a male leader. So I got it registered, and then as I've gone on the process over the last year, I've been building it, trying to develop things and creating infrastructure for it. So I've been doing a bit back to front really, because the group was already running.
And you've always been a really strong advocate for the community. You do lots of other things as well, events and things. How do you feel that with the men that come into the group, I mean, obviously you can't disclose anything that is personal, but what are there any kind of like themes or trends is probably the wrong word, that you find that men are experiencing?
Yeah, well, interestingly, again, without disclosing any kind of individual details, over most of the meetings have organically become a place where people have wanted to come and talk about their story. So we've had a range of things. There's a couple of topics which are quite prevalent. The overall one is about men not talking, not holding things in, not showing emotions. The group that we've developed, it's been amazingly safe, and people in there feel open to talk, and the feedback verbally and in writing has been really, that people are finding it really helpful. People are linking in with each other within the group, pairing up and getting to know each other. So these little things, call them soft targets, things that aren't necessarily recorded as statistics. Those are the things that are happening within the group, and there's a massive need. There's lots of other things going on actually. So there's a period now where lots of individuals and different groups are actually working in the community, and also the drive, especially in Derby, is to try and pull those together, which is happening more. People are working more collaboratively within the community.
Yeah, and I suppose it's really good because it's giving that, like you've just mentioned, that peer-to-peer support as well. So if they feel that for anything that they want to discuss, they might not feel comfortable to disclose it in the group, just by attending the group, they can then get that peer-to-peer support, so they can speak on a one-to-one with anyone, yourself included, within that group, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's hopefully what we're offering. It's very early days. I mean, I keep a lot of posting, and I could talk all evening and tomorrow about the kind of ideas and plans and projects and stuff. We're at the is just kind of making sure that we've got the infrastructure. We've now got a WhatsApp group with about 17 kind of members. You know, I'm applying now. There's been one piece of money that we had at one point, but there's been no funding for this.
Right.
So now is the time that we're looking at for funding. As I say, ideas for projects, and, you know, working with other organisations, already work with individuals and other organisations, and looking at longer term strategically to link in with CAM services, education, you know, those kind of services, and offer more support for more people. But it's a long, you know, it sounds like that's a big plan, but it's very realistic. Yeah.
It's absolutely realistic. Just because there's a need there makes it more so realistic, I suppose.
Yeah, and, you know, on the back of, we can use COVID as the period, but on the back of current technological change, I talk about social media all the time. I've got to kind of calm down on it, but, you know, is you know, you can't get away from it. The impact of it is massively great. You know, advances, ChatGPT, but also with the same things, there's loads of negatives, and, you know, I really sometimes actually, you know, the idea of the fake news thing, which is this, it's so complex. Actually, people think, oh, it's a very complex operation, which affects the way we are, you know, in the way that lifestyles have very much changed. I've always worked with young people, and young people's lifestyles are very different from people of our generation, and, you know, it's
absolutely
a big change.
I think, like you said about lockdown, I was going to ask you about that. There was that a bit of that isolation, which had a huge impact on people's mental health, and also the fact that that human interaction was lacking. And so, you know, being able to meet up with people, to come to a group, to actually feel safe enough to share their personal experiences and feelings is like really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, there's two issues there. One is, like, as you say, COVID. You know, COVID affected everybody, because
Yeah.
it's almost like putting it as an experiment for a year and a half and saying, right, you've got to stay in a house for a year and a half. You know, to some extent, it's bound to have some, you know, impact. For some, much more. Loads of people, you know, children, young people who are developing, you know, in certain ages will have more of an impact. Different environments. If you lived in a flat with 3 other kids, and 2 kids have got ADHD, and, you know, one parent, you know, and got no garden, you know.
Yeah.
I loved COVID, you know, individually. I loved it, you know,
I hear you.
but again, you know, some of that's not positive, because it's that isolation that you get used to, which isn't good for you. So COVID is a massive one, which is part of, as I say, there's just for me, it's kind of a evolutionary kind of thing, change, where young people talk a lot about, you know, our generation, we all say it, we just go out and party. The young generation's experience is 100% different, and
Oh,
that's,
definitely.
you know, they don't have youth clubs. The people don't talk face to face as regularly. I've got this big thing, you know, it's all about technology, you know, texting. Even now, our age, we've had to, the laws of communication, for example, are kind of unwritten, but they're changing every month and every year. You know, are we allowed to do a phone call to somebody? No. Are you not allowed to do a video call to somebody who you don't know? You know, the unwritten rules that you have to learn as we go along in life, you know, in this period, which is changing, you know.
Yeah.
So what we expect of ourselves and what we expect for young people, we have to recognise a difference, you know, in their experience.
Absolutely different. Because I mean, some of my closest and longest friends I've met through going to youth club.
Yeah.
That having that service available was just pivotal for me. I think it just, that's what made me kind of the person that I am.
Yeah, and that's why to encourage with the group. We've had one of the last groups, we had guys 77 talking about his experience, and you had 3-4 guys who were teenagers or early 20s, you know, and everything in between. And the idea of those people talking to each other as well, you know, sharing stories, you know, that's the other thing, isn't it? Young people talking to people from different generations and sharing that experience and that history, and that, you know, sharing the youth experience for the older people, you know, is really important. And it reducing because of this, you know, the way that we live, just naturally, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, like you say, the ages have changed, and also there's a cultural element about that, where I think our generation, we were kind of brought up to have that interaction with older people in a certain way, where I think now, young people kind of stay with young people, and
Yeah.
anyone above 30 years old.
Yeah. But again, if we think about how the society's changed, where back in the day we were lots of people lived in the house and relatives lived locally. People not, you go around to people's houses, so there was all that human contact of people who were within family or friendship groups that were really close, or communities that were really close.
Community.
That doesn't really exist it's that will not exist in the same way in the future, because you can see already what is a community was one of the questions I first kind of asked. I was asking kind of what is a community? So what's the African Caribbean community? My son's of mixed heritage.
Yeah.
What community? And that's why something like the Caribbean Carnival in Derby's just gone, and they are still really important events. Those events are really important, and because those one-off events, they kind of just still hold those types of bring communities together.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
There's an online community now.
There is, and I host another one myself, and it's nice. And for instance, like I've been told that as a facilitator of a community group, this is through adoption, that we've got funding, but my group developed during lockdown, and so people are like national.
Yeah.
And so how the logistics to bring everyone together to have like a cup of coffee or something social is near impossible, because they've also got young children because they're adopting and stuff. So yeah, the idea of community is very different. And myself not living in Derby anymore, I definitely feel that and miss that aspect of things, of being able to pop round my mum's, or nip to see my sister or my friends, or let's just go for a drink after work. I can do that here, but it's not the same. It's not the same. It's very different.
Yeah, because it's not what you used to see as your community. It's a new community.
Exactly. It's a new community. Yeah. And people don't interact, I don't think, no disrespect to the South, but in the same way as you kind of do in the North.
It does tend to get, friendly the more further north.
It does. And I've been down here a long time, and I have made friends down here, and it's lovely, but it's different. It is different.
I mean, interestingly, recently there's been a few, because it's doing a lot of social media postings, these recent posts where there's been this kind of post about how we make friends. Like, you walk past somebody, say hello, and then you see them again. But there's also ones where people are kind of having a go at the fact that we don't, as the same way back in the day when I walked past a black guy, I didn't know who he was. I go in, cool,
Yeah, you're right.
My friend always said, "Oh, do you know them?" I said, "No, I don't know."
No.
But that was a really positive thing. I was with somebody the other day, and there was an African guy went past, and my friend stopped him and said, why do you keep on walking past and not just say, trying to just being kind of talking about just saying hello. And that has gone a lot, even whether it's between black guys or whether it's between any people. You think about Africans and blacks, is that kind of historical
divide
kind of between, which I was talking about somewhere, hopefully is less, but I'm sure it's still there. We are African, we have African heritage, man.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
That little things like that are important. It's about encouraging engagement, real meaningful communication, which a text to a young person might seem meaningful, but talking to somebody, interacting with them, seeing the body language, getting feedback, positive feedback, even touch. It's it used to be a very important part of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now, because there are so many kind of restrictions and laws and things, as you get older, you're almost a bit fearful. So even if you see a young child, I was talking about this with my husband, and I was just saying, if you see a young child and they're doing something and it seems to be dangerous, and back in the day, you'd be like, no, and you'd go and like maybe put your hand out to stop them running into the road, for instance. I mean, I would still probably naturally do that. We would naturally.
Yeah.
But then there is that afterthought of like, oh dear, are they going to say that I grabbed them, or, am I going to get in trouble?
I've seen progression of in those work lines, social work and youth, and like all my professionals, there's a term we call risk averse, where people are risk averse, where some people are really wouldn't take any risks. The boundaries are really tight, and then other people risk averse. I think was when you were about kind of flexible with the boundaries, and I'm actually, to be honest. But you've got to be really careful not to go beyond what social boundary is, even though it might be, there's things like I the other day I was working a job I was doing not quite recently, and this is weird. I've been out of kind of normal work, well, those types of role, working with direct work for a while, and we did a activity, and there's young people, and I kind of automatically, just naturally, I'm like, put my arm around, and then somebody reminded me. It was really, it was totally inappropriate in that setting, but it's back in the day you do that, but I understand it's to do with things that happened back in the day. There's lots of trauma that was caused back in the day that sometimes people just really don't recognize or accept. Sometimes there's a balance. Unfortunately, rules have to be put at certain points, and they aren't flexible. Rules are rules, unfortunately, which I like to push boundaries on rules and think, challenge them, should I say, but we have to put those boundaries in for safety, for safety.
Yeah, safety and safeguarding, absolutely. So with your group, how often do they take place? Are they kind of flexible?
We've got the men's meeting, which is for anyone over 16, to any age, any background. It's open to all men, and that's monthly. It has been held at Unity Cafe on London Road in Alveston, but we are looking at, think we'll be moving to a new venue, very likely to be the Insomnia Cafe, Burton Road, by the petrol station. But details will come out for that. But we do monthly men's meetings. We're doing them consistently throughout the year. We're now just looking at some projects. We've got a few projects where we're doing a walk and talk, which is just going out meeting and going. Nice. We're also doing a meetup like for snooker and pool. We've got ideas around podcast project ideas. Got ideas around developing a book of written word, spoken word poetry, writings as a little time to talk book. So there's loads of projects that are there written down because there's too many in my head. But we've got the young men's group as well, which is another area, which is obviously under Time to Talk banner, which is 16 to 24-year-olds, which is looking to develop a group of young men who will do projects, engage with young people. We'll think about a young men's podcast project for the young men, so they can identify and raise awareness with young people. And there's loads of scope. And the other bit is a podcast which I've developed online, kind of organically. Again, it just one of those, just try something, and that is something that I'm developing. I said the second part of that is the Young Men's Project, which will be an offshoot. So that's kind of the scope of the group, but with the strategic aim of engaging with services and providing services further down the line as we develop.
Yeah, to be able to kind of get people to come through the door, I suppose, and feel safe to share and just have that time, that social interaction. Just that in itself is so powerful and beneficial.
Yeah, I see it as planting a seed, and then the scope of it, whether I do it or somebody else does it, but the scope for that bottom-up kind of support. It can be about providing support, and it can also be about providing guidance or views, feedback to services about what can they do differently. And that's a major part that we're looking at, especially with the young men's group particularly, but well about, being a forum for like gathering feedback or ideas around what would benefit services or ability for people to get support.
Yeah. And the size of the group at the moment, are there a large number of people that are coming, or do you like to keep it small and then people?
I mean, very organic. We just held the meetings. We started off with there's probably 5, 6, 7. Every meeting is increased in numbers.
Wow.
We had 19 attend. I think the last one had 10 actually, but we've got to 19. So it's very numbers. I don't watch the numbers. It's a group that meets. We always have it's building with people being more aware about it, and people are getting benefit. Well, they're giving feedback that it's beneficial. And really, I have now, as I say, it's an informal membership, as in people who have shown they want to support and engage. But as I say, there's about 17 people in that group alone.
Wow.
So again, the infrastructure is about developing, kind of formalising kind of membership going forward, or kind of roles and project leads and things like that. So as I say, there's lots to do. It sounds, you don't kind of, you want to be ambitious. You don't want to be too ambitious, as in, ridiculously. But I am very ambitious in this project because I know there's a need. I know the people I talk to are all professional and guys off the street, and anybody, are giving me very similar feedback. And also, as I said, it's not just me. There's loads of other projects, loads of other things going on, loads of creative activities and things I'm involved in which overlap with, and the sporting activities, young people. There's all, and as I say, there's something called Derby African Caribbean Community DACY. What's the I for? It's like a hub. It's a new, the Todd's leading it, and that's about trying to bring, that's in the African Caribbean community, to try and bring a lot of this together, to kind of work together. And I think that's a big change, because historically, I don't know if this is stereotyping, we know that African Caribbean communities in Derby, and I know that's happened in other cities, didn't really often work as well together as possibly they could have. There's lots of kind of jealousy, lots of kind of not trusting people.
Oh yeah.
That's historical, and I feel there's a change in that now, because there's much more collaboration within the community, Caribbean community, and across the board, actually. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I feel sad that I'm missing out on some of it, and that I'm not just down the road. I'll get involved, but yeah.
Online, you're still with technology. That's a positive thing with technology. You're a long way away, but you could be next door.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So with the other groups that you mentioned, what are the other things that you're leading? I've seen some things, like obviously on your page, that you do like the open word events. Is that right?
Yeah. So the other is, I've got a friend called Tanvir Akram, who's actually one of my trustees. He likes to be called. He didn't want to be called a director. Call him a trustee. Beside my David Powell. So they're my trustees, and like now that I've only just recently formed that, so now it's 3 heads instead of 1, plus the members, that's where I needed to go, because I couldn't go any further. So yeah, the spoken word event is called Real Talk, and that's absolutely, I'm biased, but it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I actually started as a DJ, in the gaps, just to kind of support, and I've ended up, I'm the host now, actually, and I also try a bit of spoken word. I'm not a spoken word artist, I always say, but we're all poets inside, we've all got a poem in it.
I was just about to say, everyone is, whether they speak it out or they're writing it, you're writing it down. It's there, it's in everybody, for sure.
And that's what this event, the thing about this event, it's so diverse in every way, really diverse and very diverse. Urban rapper, you've got everything, every kind of nationality and gender and race and age, and it's really safe as well. That's what it kind of feels like, the group I'm in, this, where you could go first time and go on stage, and I know you've been there, but people would be really supportive,
Biting me nails.
Yeah, that's what, and that's why I try and have a go at things. And I think that's, within working with mental health, it's important for people to try different things, through the life. And, we all like certain things, and doing spoken word for me was doing something totally different. I don't do spoken word. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been doing lots of posting recently. I said the podcast developed just organically, where it was just purely for raising awareness and promotion, really, basically, is what I've done. But I've used that as a platform. Again, it's just this time where I've just put loads of different things. I've done raps, not proper raps, rhymes and music, and I do videos, and I've learned quite a lot. And for me, I'm fortunate, really, because I've been doing that as a project, and I've been learning as I go along. And I see that it is improving. I'm no expert. I'm an old geezer having a go on, technology that I'm not an expert on. You know what I mean? But that is, for me, it's about starting something that other people can, the young people can come and do something properly. Much more about podcasts and, you know, editing and all that kind of stuff. So I want to for those young people and, you know, other people in the group to kind of get involved in developing some of these things, which are not only just that good activities, there's loads of these soft benefits, you know,
Yeah.
supporting other people, learning new skills, you know, gaining confidence, you know, meeting new people, you know, people, you know, meeting new people, loads of secondary benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Harnessing the youth is just fantastic because I'm the same. I don't know what I'm doing with all this technology. I'm just trying a thing, Dave. I'm trying a thing and just seeing if it'll work, you know, because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm learning as I go along. I don't know. I'm just, yeah.
And important thing I think it's one of these, you know, is that thing about don't watch anybody, watch yourself. If
Yeah.
you're we all sometimes do it. We start looking at, oh God, he's looking good, that's good, you know. But you watch yourself. If you look back at your previous 3 and you see that the next one is actually making some progress, that doesn't matter about John over there getting 50,000 viewers. You know, you're making progress. And
Absolutely.
with social media, you know, about kind of watching other people and comparing. We do that naturally anyway. Everybody, we do. It's a thing that we have to do and compare and assess people. But we do it 1,000 times more now because social media shows us 1,000 times more people to
Oh
compare.
yeah. The statistics are there as you go in, as you go on. The stats are there to show you how good or, you know, less
It's,
positively you're doing. And if you watch that, it'll get you down. I mean, the birth of this was because I was thinking, well, so what's my thing? Everyone's got a thing. Everyone's doing kind of something. They've got a creative. Can't draw, and I really can't. I'm not just being negative. I can't draw, and so you know, I was thinking, I don't know what my thing is, and then you know, that kind of light bulb moment where I thought, actually, I'm surrounded by so many people that are doing so many fantastic, great, interesting things. Why not just showcase what they're doing? And that
fantastic.
can be my little role in that. If it's something, I don't mind. And yeah,
Fantastic. I mean, that's really interesting point because that idea again. I mean, again, you know, you described actually in a sense, which we all do,
mm,
comparing all my
yeah,
friends, we compare ourselves. The important thing I think is to recognise that we don't have to redo our own thing. So your thing could have, you know, it might have been, I'm my looking after my children is the thing that I'm really, really good at, and that's what I do, and be proud of doing that, you know. Or
yeah,
in your house, it's like your house is beautiful. That's my thing. Or working in the community, you know, everybody's got their own thing, and
mm,
sometimes I look at people and saying, right, he's doing that. That's great. I want to do that. When actually, that what he's doing is his thing. It's not your thing.
yeah,
I think that's quite.
definitely. Definitely. And I think that was part of it was it's like I didn't want to do something that everyone else was doing.
Mm,
It was that kind of, have I got a thing? Or maybe I just don't have a thing. I
mm,
must have something. But you know, and I think that was it what it was. And then there are those moments where you can tumble into it. Like you say on the mental health, I'm not ashamed to say that my thoughts
mm.
can catch you up and you know you're then kind of stuck in this space. And I suppose doing this, I started a blog and I started to write and just, you know, do some poetry and just do some reflection, just try and get things out of my head rather than waking up at 2 a.m. with a thought or something. And just getting it out there just kind of calms the voices, you know, a little bit.
There's loads of bits there that I can't even. There's, you know, one of the things that you said there. One of it, doing this thing, doing something like this. You doing what you're doing. You just explained. Me doing what I do. The same thing. It's like you get your secondary benefit. You know, whether it's kind of actually getting positive feedback from somebody, or whether it's actually doing the mindful walking that I tell people to do, or you know, it's self. You know, the good thing about the more we talk about mental health, the more people say, "Oh, I've had a bit of a difficulty. I've had it," is that people then recognise they're not the only one. You know, that's
Yeah,
oh, I'm weird. I'm the only person struggling. Everybody has some struggle at some point throughout their life, whether it's bereavement, whether it's a friend passing away, whether it's anxiety, whether it's, you know, medical clinical depression, whether it's a parent who's got depression or mental health issue. Somebody, everybody is touched by it. You know,
mm,
normal part of life. You know, life is meant to be a challenge, and our environment changes, which means
yeah,
as we're going into technology, that's why it's going another level, really, because we're going from people who used to live, in kind of caves, and then we used to live in villages and huts, and then we used to live in towns, and then we used to live in big cities. Now we live in, our children leave the city as soon as they get to 19 or whatever, and leave the city, and communities are no longer there. It's a different world, and it causes.
Definitely.
So people now are anxious about going out the front door. They're not anxious about, back in the day, you might be anxious about getting lost in a field in the middle of the night. Now you're anxious about going out the front door because of society.
Yeah.
It's created lots of anxiety, So
Yeah. And the world is, like you say, has changed so much as well, where I think risk was always out there and danger in speech marks was always out there. But I think, like you say, when you have that sense of community, when I think of the things that I did, like going up frontline, so I don't really know how to define frontline. Well, frontline was where people kind of hung out, let's say, and I would go into town. My mum will watch this and tell me off, but like not get a cab. Now
yeah,
you jump in a cab, but I'd walk from town on my own through Frontline and go home because that was the quickest way and the best way for me to get home, and get told off by lots of people that were probably hanging out there saying, "What are you doing on your own? Why are you walking?" etc. etc. But you know, even if there was danger out there, you still kind of felt safe
yeah.
in that space. Whereas now, I mean, it was even on the news today about the risk and the numbers, the statistics around assault on women and the danger that they feel being out on their own. And they kind of did like a reporter went out and was like walking through a city on her own, saying that she was looking for her friends, and they were filming it. And how many times she was approached by somebody, and like inappropriately approached.
So I would check that though again, and we always have to
Mm.
think back, and I can remember the 70s. The 70s for women but women's level of acceptance in the 70s is much higher than it is now.
Oh yeah,
So there's that element of awareness and things changing, where it feels like it's more dangerous because people are more aware that that's not acceptable behavior.
exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. That
Yeah,
it you felt you didn't feel as unsafe. Even if I still, for me personally, I don't feel any different than I did then as such. But I think you're just more aware because you're hearing so much more about it. And there's so many methods of you hearing about all the things that are happening out there that you're bombed with it almost. So,
that's exactly. I mean, you've just really said what next one of the things I was going to say about a lot of all of this is to do with, you could say, too much information, or the levels of, everything is multiplied by, say, about bullying. You used to get bullied at school, so it was like bad if you got bullied at school, and 5 or 6 of them would bully you, or 10.
yeah,
Now you might get bullied at school, but then you're on the internet, and then you've got the whole internet. So it's
yeah,
thousands and thousands. If you're anxious because you're looking at them girls who at school who look nice, and you're thinking you're not as good as them, now you're looking on the computer and you're seeing thousands of these girls that you think, oh my god, I love these girls, all dressed on, and you're trying to compare yourself. That 1,000 times more anxious than you would have been where you would have been at school, a bit kind of anxious about it. Now it's in your face every day.
yeah, you believe it. Once you came in your house, you were like, that's it, it's gone until tomorrow. Whereas
So,
now, like I say, there's no getting away from it.
and there's irony, really, because there's irony between kind of the idea we think kids are kind of softer and they've got it easy and where actually it's just different,
Yeah,
kind of there's a difference. They've got a different experience, which has caused actually the environment. We're part of it as parents as well, parental,
absolutely.
you manage stuff, how much we allow children to experience. This, the more closeted you are, the less resilient you're going to be. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
balance is quite fine in some ways.
And that is so difficult. And that is something, I mean, I've just got a toddler, so I'm all right at the minute. He's not fussed.
Yeah.
Even though he's kind of worked out how to try and use my phone. He copies what I do. But I think it's just, yeah, it's a worry because you think you want to protect them, but at the same time, there needs to be that small level of exposure to adversity to help them to build that level of resilience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was a psychologist was actually saying, she was kind of talking about how she actually, you let your child drop, and obviously safely, but rather
Yeah,
than all the time before the drop, I know there's a very fine balance between that, because I can remember this, looking at corners of tables when my son was young and shivering because table with glass corners.
yeah,
But it is a real balance, but it's also our ability to allow people to experience, a bit more, and it's the importance of attachment in early years as well. Sometimes we don't emphasize that as much, because people don't really recognize how important that period is, and the impact of it.
definitely. And as an adoptive mom,
Mm.
I've had to put that in place so that there is that positive attachment,
To
and
say,
to really work on that. And that is one of the biggest fears. You think, when I am placed or matched with a child, will we attach? Will he or she, attach to me? What will that be like? Because it's not always easy. I feel that I've been fortunate, to be honest, but how long that may last, I don't know. But it's not always the case for some people. I speak to other adopters and they have a real challenging time. It's really difficult.
congratulations on that, and that's a brilliant,
Thank you.
brilliant job you're doing. That's a massive job that you do there, and it must be a
Thank
challenge.
you.
You're dealing with a child that's removed from the parents. So fantastic. And the thing that we're trying to do, and these conversations do it, is about just to have conversations. I'm not, what I've tried to avoid with my thing, because the problem with internet is that division, and I've tried to avoid any of this kind of silliness. I just want people to have conversations or to talk more. Love disagreement, but if you disagree, just say what it is and listen to the other person. Don't get into no abusive, which we've been fortunate we haven't attracted that yet. And I
Mm.
said, I really encourage constructive criticism or constructive points. What I don't like is criticism, because criticism, what's the aim of to criticize? What are you trying to achieve? You don't.
Yeah,
I just let any, which hasn't really come, but any criticism is like, well, you come back with something constructive. I love it, because that is something that makes you learn. You know,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
it's,
Criticism just is hurtful, really. It's just kind of trying to, I don't know what you try
it,
to achieve with it, but
yeah,
it can be hurtful. Whereas constructive feedback, like you say, gives you a chance to think, okay, I can change that, or I can fix that, or I'll do something, I'll look at that from a different point of view.
criticism, in my view, has no constructive intent.
Yeah.
If I'm advising somebody, apart from no construct, what am I trying to achieve? If I'm telling them constructively, criticizing, so saying, oh, I don't think that doesn't, I think that doesn't work. That's like, oh, I totally disagree with what you're saying there, because such and such. Fantastic. I love that. That's
Yeah.
about. You're not talking to somebody just to get everybody to agree with you. You want people to kind of tweak and say, well, actually, this helps me. Mental wealth, I'm from both sides. I'm from statutory work side, and I'm from the real life, so something that CBT therapist does isn't going to work for certain people. you know
Mm,
and joining a martial arts club might be best for them, or having a mentor, or going swimming, or whatever. And it's about having that flexibility, which is what I love about doing it in the community, is that I've worked in the services and loved working in the services, but now at a place where I can use that experience in my normal life experience and people that I know to
hmm.
kind of help, or try to support people to support other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of approach.
And it's a wonderful thing what you're doing, Dave. It is. It really is a wonderful thing.
Well, thank you. As I say, it's all that, it was kind of, it just happened. But it's people, I could be doing this on my own. If nobody's engaged with it, it's nothing. So it's those people that have come to the meetings, that have kind of just showed it interest, that do their own things. You've got Open Doors doing something in Derby, really great organisation. Noir Sports, the guys doing bike riding activities. You've got
Yeah.
the Moose guy, you've got Nathan a day with Mental Roots. You've got Fern's World, which is another group which started out the same roots as this, with a lot of young people. And I want to work with all these people and know they work together with each other, you know.
Yeah, collaboration is definitely key, especially in Derby, because it is a good community. It's probably changed over the years, but it sounds like from what you're saying that it's kind of coming back, which is just
Yeah,
great.
it's very different and it's changing, and it's there, and there's a massive, really strong African community now in and again, the kind of new immigrant communities as well. So Derby is a small kind of town, really, even though it's a city.
Yeah,
Nice that it seems to be the nightclub scene's not doing it anymore. That's past thing of the past.
I
It's
know.
in stuff, there's still still things going on, but the community does seem to be creatively and health and activity wise, lots of stuff are happening, lots of young people are doing stuff, older people are doing stuff, middle aged, it's really good at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's really growing. I'm following quite a lot of different groups. I'm like, wow, there's so much going on now in Derby. There's a lot happening. A lot happening. It's really good. So I suppose just kind of to wrap things up a little bit, if someone felt that they wanted to come to the mental health group, the CIC group, Time to Talk, if they wanted to come, how would they, one, find out about it and attend?
Right, okay, so this is showing where I am in the group because we're just getting a website done, so I would have been lovely to say go to the website, but it's not ready yet, very in process. At the moment it's mainly through social media, really.
Oh, right, okay.
Powell. There's a Facebook group. You can either add me, David Powell, or there's a Facebook group which is Time to Talk Mental Wealth. And then I've got Instagram. Get me on Instagram, Dave Powell. I don't know the full ticket on that one, but also got Time to Talk Mental Wealth 2024, because there's quite a few different ones actually. When you set them up and they're not right, but it's Time to Talk Mental Wealth 2024. Hopefully not 3, but yeah, and that's on Insta. I do TikTok, but that's kind of a bit random at the moment. But all this is being developed, but social media is the best way, and you can find me quite easily on there. Do quite a bit of posting.
Okay, great. And I will add all that information. I'll put it in the comments and stuff. And just to say, so when someone attends, what would they expect from a meeting? If not me, because I'm a woman, but if someone was to attend for the first time, what would they expect?
Well, it was a cafe, and the new venue will be similar. It's very informal. We just meet, have a coffee, and whatever, chat, get to know each other. But I do basically kind of tell people about what the activities and events and updates on the group. We are tending to have somebody coming and talking about their experiences, and we have a bit of food for thought. My sister's been Carol's Country Kitchen. She's been food for me for free at the moment, and so we have a bit of a chat time, a time for people to talk, and then there is obviously individual support. If people want to have a word with me outside of that, we can direct people for support or look at what we can do to support people. So it's very informal, and you can come. You don't have to come on the dot. You can go early, and the feedback is very, very positive. It's very relaxed. It's very supportive. It's confidential. Any other information, tap me up on my social media.
Perfect. That's amazing. Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for your time today. And it's really great what you're doing in the community.
Thank you,
Really,
Tracy.
really.
And I'll say back to you, brilliant what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. And then, we've had a bit of a chat outside. So one step at a time and focus on your progress. So brilliant, and keep it up.
Thank you. And we'll have lots more chats. Okay, then. All right. So take care, everyone. I hope that you'll come with curiosity and leave with kindness.